employee orientation is not onboarding. So essentially, that first day when someone joins your organization and you have this wonderful meeting, or they meet up with other people who are new at the organization, and they essentially are taken through what the organization does, what the organization stands for. That's not onboarding. That's just orienting them to the place that they came. They are not really familiar with your processes at that point because they don't even know what their day to day is going to look like. So, welcome again to this particular webinar where we are going to go through the important topic of onboarding, and more so learn a specific method and strategy on which will help your team and your organization reduce your onboarding by at least 50% if it's implemented well. And we do say 50% because, well, the organization is different from ours and organizations vary in complexity. But if you follow this, you can create more assurance in the process, which essentially builds a greater competency. So to start with, I am Dennis Muthuri, and I'm part of the team at Tizisha. And I thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to just join us for this morning session. And one thing is we'll have a QA session at the end, but feel free to just react using any of feel free to react on any given thing at any given point on the particular call. If there's something that you like or resonates with you, please use the emojis as liberally as possible. And just to introduce, Tizisha as a company exists to basically just make organization success repeatable. And in this, the idea is that we believe that when successful operation culture can scale beyond individual talent, then profit is an inevitable outcome. This essentially means that if you can take what works courtesy of in one person and scale it to the rest of your team, you will have a greater chance of, and systemize that, you will have a greater chance of long-term profitability and success, as opposed to your one-off things that work and you do not have any documentation around what happens, and you have a reduced chance of reproducibility. So next, what we're going to do is just take a poll on onboarding. So I will just share this, and if you are, let me just share this poll. So a poll should have come up on your screen. If you have joined using the Zoom desktop app or the Zoom mobile app, you will be able to see the poll. It has only 2 questions, and yeah. Okay, I see a couple of responses coming in, which is great. So keep answering, keep answering. Let's see if we'll get a number of responses, which are interesting. But so far, it seems that responses are, well, I'll just leave that running across and see it. Okay, I see 2 responses. This is very interesting. I'm gonna give around 10 more seconds to just do this and see if we resonate on the same topic of onboarding. Does the onboarding process in your org work for you, or do you feel like it needs a lot of improvement? And I'm seeing that if I just end this particular poll, and just share the results with you. You should be able to see the results on your screen. The participants have basically said though not a huge sample size in this case, but you're agreeing that it's a bit of a hit or miss situation. And most of you have said, yes, I feel that this could essentially use a lot of improvement. And I'm glad that that's the feeling in the room because that is exactly why we chose to tackle this particular topic. So, what is the first thing we need to do is obviously define what onboarding is and why we should care about it. Because if we do not know the definition of a thing, then we cannot address it well. People use the word onboarding loosely, but haven't really thought of what it means in particular. So, why should I care about this particular term? And the definition that I found was very interesting. It comes from the Association for Talent Development, and there's a key number of words that I've just highlighted in this. And the first one is it's a process, right? And a process means that someone will essentially have to go through this journey from one point to another. And if you think about it with me, and I just invite you to think or react, um, when you joined the organization that you are in or head the organization that you are in, do you have a particular process or journey that you take people through? And that is something that you can essentially just reflect, take a note on where you are, and feel free to react on the chat. But the idea is there's this journey that someone has to go through. And the aim of that journey is essentially to equip someone who is new with the knowledge and skills that they essentially need to succeed. So you have a journey on one end, and the whole aspect of that journey, the purpose of that journey is to ensure that this particular person, whom you spent a lot of money and took them through many rounds of interviews to hire, is equipped to be able to perform well for your job, right? You hired for the particular, you hired them because they came with a certain set of experiences and you believed that once we have you in the organization, you can go through our process and basically help us achieve our outcomes in a period of time that is probably less than we are taking to achieve, or they came to essentially solve a certain problem. Now, the hiring bit of things is where people invest most of their time. And the interesting thing is we have a lot of optimization when it comes to how to hire, how to source, how to find the best talent. But it's a little bit interesting that people do not invest an equal amount of thinking in how to make the new talent functional, right? Like you spend the whole this bunch of money to bring the person in, but you're not spending equal amounts of energy to make them highly functional for you. Because someone just joining an organization like that doesn't become productive overnight. You have to essentially take them through this process, be intentional about it. And one interesting insight is this. Employee orientation is not onboarding. So essentially, that first day when someone joins your organization and you have this wonderful meeting, or they meet up with other people who are new at the organization, and they essentially are taken through what the organization does, what the organization stands for. That's not onboarding. That's just orienting them to the place that they came. They are not really familiar with your processes at that point because they don't even know what their day to day is going to look like. So, uh, the next question is basically, yeah, how should I approach the onboarding then? I mean, we already know that it's a process, which means that a process typically has a set of steps that someone has to go through, and you have to follow this particular path over a period of time, after which someone comes out very, very equipped. So I want you to be open to the fact that there's essentially the process that we are essentially going to learn entails a couple of words that are usually used loosely apart, but when put together, they kind of form something new. And the approach that we basically came up with is something called the employee competence journey. That's basically one thing. The main topic and main idea here is that leaning on the process is that in the same way we have user journeys, my background is in I have software engineering and digital product design. So what happens is you would, when someone comes to use a product, you essentially had to define a journey. And you had to take them through a series of steps to achieve a goal. So you think of, okay, when someone comes from this screen, what happens? And why are they in this screen? What are the goals that they're seeing? What do they want to accomplish? What set of actions they actually want to accomplish when they're here? And in the same way we do this for user journeys, we have to actually understand how success looks like on a daily, weekly, monthly, or every other month for this particular role. You have to kind of know what this person's journey is throughout your organization by looking at the specific competencies that they need to be engaging in or that they need to be excelling at on a daily, on a weekly, every other month, or a longer period of time, depending. And the idea behind understanding this is you want to be able to optimize something so that you get this uh, bump in your onboarding by 50%. The employee competence journey holds you to a point whereby you can be able to define it, right? Because there's this quote that I like from Peter Drucker, and he's called the father of modern management. And he normally says that you can't manage or fix what you can't measure. And you can't, I extend that to also imply that you can't measure what you can't define. And this helps you define what to measure so that when you know it's not working, when you know the expectation is not being met, you can actually fix it and get someone up to the place of uh, productiveness within your organization really, really quickly. So in practice, uh, it's a very, very simple thing. And like when you see essentially how this looks on paper, it essentially just looks like this. Then it's very simple sheet that you have. You have your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly um, set of competencies that you expect someone to have. And we'll see this in practice in a bit. And the good thing about this is because it's a process, essentially, it's not tied down to any particular industry. It can work in a variety of businesses. And the idea here is you, either as a founder or a manager in this particular case, would sit down and really look at what do I need someone to do? Okay, this is the business goal. And the first thing, obviously, you have a business outcome. And you look at this is a business outcome, or this is my department outcome, and how it plays into the large organization. And you kind of ask yourself, how does this person's day to day have to look like? It's one thing for you to pull in someone and say, hey, I want you to deliver this result. I don't care how you do it. And then expect magic, expect them to start navigating the myriad of departments you have or people you have. Even though you're a small company, you're basically, they might just be able to have access to you as a founder. You still need to know how this looks like. Otherwise, this particular person could be doing something that, I mean, that will end up filling in a vacuum that exists. If you have this mapped out, you destroy those points. I mean, you don't create a vacuum. So you've essentially given them the ability to also help you polish up on this. Now, the thing is, as you define this, one of the things that comes up, and I wish I had a whiteboard here, is you see your points of weakness, which are probably your improvement opportunities, will become clear. And in this, because as you define how someone's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly is expected to look like, you essentially come up, it's a reflection into how your organization operates for you. And Another thing is these areas of disconnect will show up since you're connecting the your micro tasks to your macro objective. And also what doesn't help the business outcomes, um, what doesn't just assist any of your business outcomes, just stands out. So you're able to define this key set of things that someone is able to do. Remember, you hired this person, and this person that you hired, decent talent, well recommended, passed your specific interviews, and now you're making them very functional. You're taking advantage of the skills that they have by running them through the pipeline that you believe will help your organization accomplish its goals, and it will yield. I guarantee you that this is an exercise that if you're to do, you will actually end up reaping dividends from. So I will just go into the next part and just show you how this works in practice. And the idea here is that we're just going to go through a scenario where we've hired someone in practice and go through a case whereby this person has this business that has this particular outcome. And we're going to see how the employee competence journey map for this particular employee will look like. And as said, if you have any questions, feel free, you can drop them at the chat, but we'll definitely have a Q&A session at the end. Okay, so this is Jane, and in this particular scenario, we have this lady who just got started at Sales and Closes Limited as a new sales rep and is essentially, typically, as would be expected, would be assigned to a sales manager. And the sales manager basically in the org communicates that the knows that the organization objective in this particular case is they want to close out business worth $10,000 per quarter while keeping the cost of new customer acquisition spending well below $3,000. So these are essentially an outcome that the business has defined. Jane's been hired. She's working within a well-defined department, well-defined area. And now, how do you expect her days to look like? I mean, without the employee competence journey map, she will basically be told, okay, this is the objective. She might be given a number and that's it, right? Or maybe told, okay, attend this series of meetings. And it turns out to be a very chaotic thing. But with the necessary guidance, and this doesn't mean that with the necessary guidance, Jane is able to stick, understand this is what's required of me. I can do more. Essentially, I'm not required to do less, but I can do more. I can exceed this, but the company has found out that if someone in my role does these things in this cadence, they will be able to succeed at helping the business achieve its outcomes. And if they're not succeeding, it's not essentially they're not let go. But the thing is, the company now looks at what is it that we need to tweak at this particular level to essentially get this role or get the person in this role to achieve at their best. And this is essentially how it would look like, right? So you have the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly. And in practice, this looks like Jane, who works in sales, has this level of structure that can essentially be equipped. And from day one, she's not lost. She knows exactly what to do, and she can do more of this. She can even refine this, but she has a good starting place. Because remember, it's an onboarding. This is a new employee. You're equipping them with knowledge and skills to succeed at their role. So on a daily, this person makes cold calls, cold emails, and does a demo. These are the things that they've established that will um, cause some that these are the things that the set of activities that they have said, hey, these particular activities are the things that you need, that we believe you came in with a certain skill that shows you're good at them. But these are the set of competencies that we essentially want want you to keep doing on a daily basis. These are the things that we want. On a weekly, this is something that goes now beyond their department, or rather their control, if I may say so. And they have the expectation that they'll convert one lead, probably do a one-on-one with a peer, a different peer for knowledge transfer, and do a manager one-on-one. Now, if you look at how the daily translates to the weekly, it's that the more it the more we move from the nuance into the broader, other people now start coming into the picture. So you can even see how someone's role interacts with other departments here. And on a monthly, she's supposed to essentially close out $1,000 worth of new business and probably attend a sales seminar, just to give an example. The idea here is that all these activities that you've been doing have given you enough insight and have given you enough understanding so that you can be capacitated to do this. If the goal is not hit, it's very easy to come and tweak the particular process and see what exactly is not happening. And this is the best place where now having a learning and development tool comes in place, where each and every one of these particular competencies can now yield specific manuals. Like, this is how we do cold calls. This is how we send cold emails. This is how we do demos. This is a one-on-one guide, how to get the most out of one-on-one. And those are things in your standard operating procedures, which can be uploaded to your learning and development platform. It's just the one Tizisha actually has. And these can assist you in making that success repeatable. So you know how you're connecting your competence, someone's day to day, with the kind of manuals or training that they need to be doing. So someone actually sees the value in what they're being expected to go through in the standard operating procedures. And obviously, on a quarterly, someone now essentially there's a big goal, and this big goal essentially, which is $2,500 in new business, and also just as a development measure, she has to give a sales presentation on a sales technique they learned. This is something that won't just show up. Like, if that quarterly goal was given without everything that's come before, it might just sound impossible. And it's leaving everything up to Jane to figure out. Probably with, assuming if they have a good manager, yeah, it goes well. If they don't, yeah, who knows? So you find that this particular person having this at the beginning of you're having this for each and every role, working with the managers in your company to basically just come up with or implement this particular way of thinking, where you map out, you go like, okay, it doesn't matter at which role. You might even think that, oh, this person is simply if you're in a delivery logistics company, frontline workers are people that our platform is built essentially for and can be used across different domains as well. You might see them as, oh, this person is a guard, or they're just a driver, but this can still work the same way. It's just that what you fill in looks a lot different, and it shows you what they need to now know on a daily, which, as you create a manual, you can actually have it sitting in an automated system that will just remind them to do this, remind them to check in on this, and yeah, you see the improvement over time. So I will now open it up for Q&A and say that as for me, basically guiding the session, that's come to an end. And yeah, yeah, we can take your questions now. Feel free to just type them in the chat at the moment. And we'll just pick them and read them and answer them, yeah. Could we get the recording, please? Yes, you'll get the recording. Yes, you will get the recording. We are recording and we will send it. How long should onboarding take? Thank you. Onboarding can take up to even 6 months in some cases. If you do it well enough, if you structure it well enough, you don't need to take that long. Because onboarding, as I said, the process can be mapped out to say take n number of months or a number of weeks. If you map it well, someone can achieve competency even faster. I mean, depending on the complexity of a role in an organization, you can have your first wins, or rather, you can have your first wins. You should definitely plan to have those first wins within the first 2 weeks, and then essentially have immediate competencies, which is basically your day to day should be at least, you should have won that battle within your first 2 weeks, and then cascade the gains over to the next couple of, of months, essentially. There is another question here on at what point do you have onboarding start? Who is in charge of mapping out the task? One, the hiring manager is the one in charge. I would say the hiring manager one, because they know more, they are going to be working with a direct report. Now, the hiring manager in this case is can, if depending on how many layers of uh, hierarchies, or rather someone has before they get to the director, it's the person who they're going to be reporting to that knows about the role, that has the understanding of what it takes to succeed about this particular role, should be doing it. That means, for example, like I'll even take a really, really simple one. If I hire a nanny, right? I have a nanny for my children. My wife is probably best suited at figuring this thing out. And why? I'm going to be limited in my understanding. And I may just say, okay, they need to essentially ensure the house is clean or ensure the baby is changed, and more generally. But my wife doesn't understand. She's going to be working closer with her. So she's the best person to do the mapping of this particular task. And in a normal organization's case, this must be, you might be working with a line manager, a head of department, a senior who will be working with this particular report. So that is the person that will essentially be in charge of mapping out the task. And at what point do you have it start? It starts on day one. Like the moment someone joins, because the point is it's a new hire. From day one, you're already starting the onboarding, and you consider it a success once someone is able to achieve these particular tasks at a point of your organization's competency where you say, okay, yes, they're comfortable doing this set of tasks. We can see that they are even achieving this particular outcome. And you can say that, yeah, this is the next step would probably be now to make them more effective or additional training in the role. But with regards to getting out, breaking them into your organization flow, that kind of starts from day one. Yeah. Okay. Not seeing any other questions coming in chat. So I'll just proceed to wind up and not take any more of your time since you have busy days. And just say, yeah, if you want help in implementing this the ideas just shared within this particular webinar, you can send an email to hello at mail .tizisha.com. And I see an extra question here. So I would imagine week one is more of orientation. Exactly. Week one is orientation. It's just familiarity with the place that they've started working at. They've not even started onboarding yet. Yeah. So you're right to call that out. That yeah, week one is definitely a time where someone actually just gets oriented. That's the whole point. You're just getting familiar. But the things that they should be working on should already be clear. You should also be orienting them on how you intend to onboard them in the ideal situation. So yeah, I mean, thank you. Loving the interaction. So I was saying, yeah, I mean, the webinar has been recorded, and will be sent to the email that you use to register. And yeah, if you feel like you'd like us to help you implement the ideas shared here, yeah, send an email to hello@mail.tizisha.com, or just reply to the webinar reminder email that you received, which should just send it to hello at email. And yeah, check out tizisha.com if and yeah, if the platform definitely looks like something you'd be interested in exploring to just meet your onboarding and frontline training goals, we're happy to have a chat. And with that, um, thank you for attending and have a good rest of your day.